Morning, Rotarians. Good morning, Rotarians. I'm Joe Avella, President of Hudson Rotary. Our Sergeant-at-Arms, Ron Strobel, is down with a bad cold. So welcome to our meeting. Our invocation this morning is by Jim Young.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. Can you believe this is the 1st of December? I mean, it's more like October, isn't it? Okay, let us pray. As we gather here today as Rotary members, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our services to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. In this troubled time, let us strive to make a better world. Amen.
And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test today is Kelly Brennan.
Good morning. Good morning. Kelly. Rise. You say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. Number 1. Is the truth. Number 2. Is fair to all concerned. Number 3. Will build good welfare friendships. And number 4. Will be beneficial to all concerned. Aces.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. And to lead us in song, Dick Pearsall.
All right, it's going to be something in the Christmas mood today. Deck the halls, and it's only going to be the first. Jim always wants to have all 6 verses, but we're just going to sing the first one on Deck the Halls. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Trail the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. Hard to stop a train.
All right. All right, thank you. Be seated, please. We have no guests today other than our distinguished speakers, so Chris doesn't have to come up here. We do want to thank those of you that worked on last Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, at the Acme Plaza for the Salvation Army to collect for the Red Kettle. That was very nice. And thank you, Larry, for organizing that project. Just a little bit about that. I was surprised that if you remember about 4 or 5 weeks ago, some of us assisted the service learning class at Camp Ledgewood, and so last week I received thank you notes from the girls on my team, or I was on their team, but the 3 young ladies and as well as Lonnie Banner. So I thought that was very nice to get a thank you note for those from those girls. Our 3-minute, we're going to continue with our 3-minute Rotarian today, and today it is Donna Kastner.
All right, yeah, I gotta have photos, right? Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. Somebody time me, okay? 3 minutes. Here we go. I am Donna Kastner. I've been a Rotarian for 5 years, and I've lived in Hudson for 21 years. I can't believe it. I pulled together some pictures, and this was the most recent. This was this weekend. All the people they all were out-of-towners except for Bob and I, staying at my house. If you count, wait, make sure I get, take that time off the clock. So anyway, 2 dogs, 12 people, lots of food, lots of fun. That's my husband's dad in the middle, so it was wonderful. And then my family, there's my dad and mom, and I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. Oh, come on. Again, there's my family. Our son and daughter-in-law got married on New Year's Eve. You talk about a crazy time for a wedding, and that was 4 years ago, and that was at the rehearsal dinner. I'm a Flyer. Go Flyers, UD grad. Met my husband at University of Dayton. I was born in New York. I was born in New York City, grew up in the Bronx, and then in the suburbs, and then came to University of Dayton. Believe it or not, there's quite a few New Yorkers that come in to Dayton, and met my husband there. We got married soon after college. Love of my life, 36 years. We have 3 sons, and we are empty nesters now. They all got through college. Yay! They all got through college in 4 years. Yay! We just paid off the end of the debt. Yay! And they've been bouncing around just as we have. We've moved around quite a bit in our time. But this is our oldest, Chris, and his wife, Becky, and they were in Chicago for a while, and now they just moved to Arkansas. Talk about a culture shift. And he works for Nestle and Walmart. He needs to be near Walmart headquarters, so that's Chris and Becky. Nick is our middle guy. He's our artist. He's the person that every once in a while when we ask for logos on the gala hey, Nick, can you do something on this? He wears the graphic designer artist attire that you would have out in San Francisco. And he's in Seattle now, the hoodie and the cap. And then our youngest, Charlie, in the middle there, is down in Dayton. So anyway, 3 sons, wonderful men. Me, crazy career. I went into college as a poli-sci major and graduated as a music ed major. Go figure. Broke my dad's heart. And I went on to be a high school band director for 5 years in Ohio. I was down in Dayton. I was in Michigan, and then I was in Jersey for 3 years. Wonderful, wonderful job. I so enjoyed it. So enjoyed the kids. I so enjoyed what we did. Then we started a family. And for me at the time, it was difficult to merge the teaching and then also the keeping my certification. I was trying to get my master's, and so I ended up starting a home-based business, which was kind of crazy and even revolutionary in 1984. But I bought an IBM PC Junior, and that was, and it looks like a really ridiculous machine as we look at it today. People would actually come to my house. Come here, you got to see. She has a computer in her house. It's unbelievable. But I would typeset book manuscripts for a publisher in New Jersey, and over time, it was great. It was the kind of work I could do in the morning, in the evening, around time with the kids. And then I started recruiting other work-at-home moms, and I had a whole little business going on in New Jersey of this typesetting, book manuscript typesetting, and it was going wonderfully. Every time I would do something like this, my husband, God bless him, would move. We're moving to Detroit, we're moving to Lima, we're moving here. So we actually moved 15 times before we got here. I can't believe that's why being here 20 years is like, whoa. We haven't figured out we only know how to clear up our house by moving. I keep saying to my husband, I look in the basement and go, we gotta move. So anyway, I did this, and then I have this blank slide because there was this whole middle area where we were moving very rapidly, and I was a writer for magazines. I really enjoyed this writing piece, and I was writing columns. I was actually a regular writer for Century 21 magazine. Sorry, Gail. That was, at the time, this really cool national publication where I would do featured articles, and that was fun. I ended up writing columns for newspapers, and then I ended up doing some radio shows that I developed and hosted. Each time we moved, I was getting into this kind of broadcasting, multimedia thing. And then, somewhere along the way, I was this work-at-home guru, and I ended up getting recruited to develop a whole series of books and tapes that were promoted in a nationally aired infomercial. It was America's Work-at-Home Secrets, 5 workbooks and cassette tapes and everything else. Again, you got to remember, at this point, it's the early 90s. Like, wow, work at home? I can do that? So there was a bunch of investors that funded this. That is the mom from the Wonder Years. She was our celebrity spokesperson. I had friends that I hadn't seen for years that they would see me in the middle of the night, like 3 o'clock in the morning on Discovery Channel, like, whoa, I saw you on TV. In infomercials, you either hit it big or you're out. There's no middle, and we were out. But it was a fun few months, and had it hit, who knows where I'd be. I'd probably be crazy by now. So, but then I kind of segued into the event industry, and that was fun. I worked for Experian for 6 years. They're headquartered in Twinsburg, getting involved in large conferences, trade shows. And then I think about the time that I came here and joined the club, I was on my own, and then was recruited by the former president of Experian to join his little boutique consulting firm called Velvet Chainsaw Consulting. How's that for a name? I'm telling you, it's the icebreaker of a name. But actually they gave him that. That's the owner on the left, and he got that nickname because he was a real smooth negotiator. Everything would go, and you'd feel like, wow, it's like a velvet chainsaw. But I loved working for 4 years with him. He's brilliant. I learned so much. It was just like I kind of was, chasing the big dogs with my puppy legs, trying to keep up. And I learned a lot about strategy and understood the financials and the tremendous change that's going on. And a lot of businesses are disrupted in today's digital economy, and certainly conferences, conventions, trade shows. The value prop is changing. Jumping on a plane and going somewhere for 3 or 4 days, it's a little different than it might have been 10 years ago. And so long story short, that was fun. I was responsible for a number of different areas. Sponsorship was one of them. I left Velvet Chainsaw in August because once you're an entrepreneur, it's kind of hard to not go back and do your own thing. And I felt like I had one last run I wanted to make. So, I'm sorry. Our going away present, they're such a great group. And when I left, he kept calling me this big dreamer of what I want to do. So they gave Bob and I a hot air balloon ride. And so we went out to lunch, and he's like, he gives me this, and I'm like, oh, thank you. And then in my head, I'm just like, hot air balloon ride? I'm not sure this is really, I hadn't really thought about this. And just before we went, in fact, we ended up going. It was behind Ravenna High School. It's like you get a call the night before. Yeah, the weather's good. We got canceled 3 times. Yeah, the weather's good. We're going to meet behind Ravenna High School at 5:30 in the morning. And you're just like. And then if you see that little basket there, this is this little basket with 6 people, and then a guy that's standing on a box that's pulling the torch that kind of heats up the balloon and makes it rise. And you're just standing there going, are there regulations or certification for this kind of thing? I hadn't really thought about this. 4,000 feet in the air. But actually, it was one of the most magnificent experiences, and I'm kind of glad I kind of got pushed into it because I wouldn't have done it on my own. And there was a peaceful, joyful, blissful, I can't describe it. So anyway, there you go. So I strongly recommend it. I'm not sure I'm going to be a repeat ballooner, but check that box. It's done. But I left Velvet Chainsaw in August because I wanted to, one, do some consulting, but be more focused on content marketing. It's really amazing to me what's going on with digital, and I write for a number of different blogs that I contribute to in some magazines. And right now, there's just such an opportunity for businesses to really get their messages out. So I'm consulting with a number of conferences and trade shows on the content marketing piece. But some of you may remember when I first came barreling into Rotary, I had this crazy thought of retirepreneur. And I kept thinking that my generation, boomers, were kind of getting squeezed out of the marketplace, and there must be some opportunity for us to kind of segue. We really understood how to climb up the ladder. We didn't know how to climb down and maybe move into some kind of other dynamic. And I really think that there's opportunities for people in areas of great need to segue into what I'm doing, consulting. So I'm living it. And in January, I'm going to relaunch Retirepreneur, and I'm scheduled to record some podcasts, and I'm really going to exploit this whole digital multimedia piece to help get the word out. I feel like it's kind of semi-ministry, but there's a whole nother dynamic. So stay tuned. I'll let you know how that rolls. But I love being in Rotary. I think the big thing about this club that I so enjoy is I did most of my charitable work at St. Mary's, and tapping in here, I kind of get this bigger scope of Hudson and what goes on. And I lived here 20 years. Didn't know anywhere near as much about Hudson as I do now as a Rotarian. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna. So our 3-minute Rotarian next week is Brad Nelson. Brad Nelson. And I will draw a name out of the hat. Oh, and for December 16, it is Joe Boycell, and I know Joe is here. Joe, will you be here on December 16? It's an interesting.
I was one of the last ones in the last cycle, so I feel like, maybe you've already heard the story,
It's an interesting story, though.
Bill Warburton comes to my mind as one of the.
All right, the next in line, James Field. Okay. December 16, James. Okay, we have some exciting projects coming up, and I will call on first Tom Page to talk about the Rose Sale, and then Ed Sogan to talk about Santa on the Green.
Ed Santa, yeah.
Ed Santa.
Rose sale, caramel corn sale. Things are picking up, but I just want to let you know, this is the last week. Next Wednesday, no more roses are going to be sold, so you got to get them in here. And I got a hold of Dick, and Dick's from Detroit. If you don't get your money in, you don't get your orders in, Guido's coming down and coming after you. Thank you.
Future 3-minute Rotarians, Joe Vella's technique is he'll let you talk for 3 minutes and then he stands up and he moves a little bit closer and a little bit closer. So Donna, you were about 15 minutes, so that was he was right there. I would like to compliment James Hackney, if you could stand up. You talk about Natalie attired, look at that shirt. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. Oh, it's the same one. Oh, okay. I didn't notice. Jimmy Sutphin is Frank Youngworth's Good Day in Hudson Person of the Year. And that show will air next week, starting on the 7th, and also the week of Christmas. So look on the HCTV schedule and make sure you see that. It's a nice honor for Louise to accept that on Jimmy's behalf. So that was pretty cool. Santa on the Green this Saturday. Those people that are setting up will meet behind Howard Hanna just a little bit before 8 o'clock. We start passing out tickets at about 8:15. The setup crew will get everything in position. It looks like the gazebo is going to be a good place for it. Temperature is going to be a little chilly in the beginning, but it'll be 50s by the time we get to about noon, so it should be a great day. We have people, again, we're passing around the sign-up sheet. If you haven't signed up, just come. Okay, the shifts are 2 hours. Come a little bit before your shift. It's a great time. We have somebody that kind of runs the show in regards to making sure we have the tickets and people moving along. The reason we pass out tickets is so people don't have to wait in line like we used to for an hour and a half in the snow, et cetera. They can judge when they need to be there. They also have Community First has their little sale going for the kids at the middle school. And that's, a nice option for the parents after they visit us to go there. So we have Santa and Mrs. Claus will be arriving at 9 o'clock on the fire engine. And we go till 3. A cleanup crew will take everything, move it back down into Howard Hanna, and the event is over. It's always a great time for everybody and for the families in Hudson. So we look forward to seeing you. Any questions in regards to Santa on the Green? Again, anybody that didn't sign up, just, come and show up. Wear something that looks like Mrs. Claus or Mr. Claus, and anything you have. Jimmy always had the correct pants and shirt and hat and everything else, but if you have a Santa hat or something that's festive in regards to that, bring it along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ed. That should be, it is always a great event. So next I would like to call on Gail Royster to present our speaker for the day.
Good morning, Rotarians. It is always a pleasure to introduce Bob DiBiasio, who has been here. Gosh, how many years have you been coming here, Bob? Forever, yes, forever. And he is priceless, right? Okay. Bob DiBiasio is entering his 37th season with the Indians and his 39th in Major League Baseball, effective 2016. He started in 1979 as Assistant PR Director, was named Director of PR in 1980, and named Vice President of PR in 1988. The Lakewood, Ohio native was promoted to his current position in 2011. His lone season away from the tribe was in 1987 when he served as PR Director for the Atlanta Braves. He serves as president of the Cleveland Indians Charities, is an honorary member of both the executive board of the Boys and Girls Club of Cleveland and the board of the Cleveland Baseball Federation. He also serves on the athletic advisory board of Notre Dame College and is a member, that's the Ohio Notre Dame College, and he is a member of the board of directors of the Bob Feller Museum in Van Meter, Iowa. Bob is a board member also of the Bob Feller Act of Valor Foundation. Bob was the 1999 recipient of the prestigious Robert O. Fischel Award for Public Relations Excellence in Major League Baseball. He was also inducted into the Lakewood High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame, and in 1986 he was named the Public Relations Director to Sports Illustrated's Dream Team. He received the ALS Cleveland Chapter Lou Gehrig Iron Horse Award for Community Service in 2009, as well as the Mel Harder Distinguished Service Award for Community Involvement in 1997. Bob graduated from Lakewood High way back in 1973. He earned degrees in journalism and education from Ohio Wesleyan University in 1977. While at Ohio Wesleyan, Bob was sports director of the school paper The Transcript, the student sports information director, and did color on OWU football and basketball broadcasts. He also played 1 year of basketball and 2 years of baseball while at OWU. In 1978, he earned his master's degree in journalism from The Ohio State University and started a stint as assistant sports editor of the Fremont, Ohio News Messenger before joining the Indians. Bob resides in Solon with his wife Penny, daughter Julie, and son Patrick, and I have just nailed him one more time to donate to our major fundraiser, the Gala, in May. Bob has so graciously, for several years now, offered to give a personally conducted tour behind the scenes, places the public never gets to see at Progressive Field. So please welcome Bob DiBiasio. See, now you're on the
Thank you, Gail. I always love being here. Appreciate the invite. I was sneaking forward. Your 3 minutes were up. That was way too much information on my bio on that. But I always love being here. This, for me, it's like opening day of the Speakers Bureau season. Today it begins. That we're off tub thumping for the tribe as we get going. The one question I'd like to start with today is, who believes in jinxes? For those of you who may remember, Sports Illustrated put us on the cover of the baseball preview last year as they announced to the world that they thought we would be the World Series champion in 2015. And obviously that didn't go as planned, and I never thought I would be one who believed in jinxes, but I'm beginning to do so. We did live up to one expectation there. We ended up having a winning season, but we didn't live up to the ultimate expectation, obviously, in winning the World Series. But Kansas City did. They were the best in our division. We played them 19 times this past year. We were 9-10. against the team that ended up being the World Series champion, and so we're very close to them. We're that close. We're committed to our number one goal at the Cleveland Indians, and that's to build a winning team, a World Series championship team in 2016. And the question always asked is, well, how do you go about doing that? How do you go about building a team that you absolutely believe can win the World Series? Well, if you look at it numerically, we only need to win mathematically like 1.5, 1.5 games a month. That would put us as the division winner more than we did a year ago. So you add 2 more wins a month, and that gets us to 92 wins, which should put you into October baseball. I think we're going to be highly ranked again. If you look at the preseason rankings of ESPN and Baseball Prospectus and all the other media that cover our sports specifically, they do have us highly ranked. And the reasons that they have us highly ranked, although we hope they don't put us on the cover of Sports Illustrated again, but give us our due, couple reasons. First and foremost, strong leadership. Everything in business starts with leadership, and ours is no different. An incredible leader in Terry Francona. Tito has led us to 3 straight winning seasons. We have a terrific coaching staff led by Brad Mills, our bench coach, obviously Sandy Alomar Jr., Mickey Callaway, our pitching coach. We are in very, very good hands when it comes to supplying our athletes every resource possible, including a top-notch coaching staff. We have a strong core of players, obviously, Michael Brandley and Jason Kipnis and Jan Gomes. And to that group was added a young shortstop this past year that the second half of the season really came on and did an incredible job, Francisco Lindor. For those of you who are baseball fans, you've heard of Francisco Lindor for a number of years as one of our minor league top prospects. He's a young man that, remarkable story that when he was growing up in Puerto Rico, at the age of 11, baseball scouts went to him and his family and said that you probably should think about moving to Orlando, Florida. And that way you can get involved in the draft because your son has an opportunity. Now, this is at 11, a scout saw this in him, to be a number 1 draft pick. And a number 1 draft pick in Major League Baseball, you can make upwards of $3 million as a 17, 18-year-old kid. And he moved to Orlando and was indeed our number 1 draft pick. And so you've heard a lot about the potential of Frankie Lindor. And he comes in and he only leads all of the American League in hitting the second half of the season. Didn't quite get the Rookie of the Year. He came in second to the Rookie of the Year to another Puerto Rican shortstop, Mr. Correa for the Houston Astros, 2 dynamic young athletes in the game of baseball. One of the things that our industry is so excited about is the fact that we have so many incredibly talented young players. This year, the infusion of young athletes really was probably the biggest infusion, the largest infusion in a number of years of incredibly talented special athletes that have come into our game. But Francisco brought the energy every night to the ballpark that added to what Kipnis does and Gomes does and Brantley does and Carlos Santana and the group. And he really changed the face. And not only did he change the energy in our clubhouse, but he helped us defensively. We weren't a very good defensive team the first half of the season. Second half of the season, we ranked second in defensive efficiency simply because of Giovanni Urshela coming at third base and Francisco at shortstop. The whole left side of the infield ended up changing the whole look of our baseball team, which is why we were able to have a winning record the second half and end up having a winning season overall. But the one thing that we have looking forward is the fact that for the next 5+ years, 6+ years, we have a chance to watch this young man who's only 22 years old to grow and develop into a very, very special talent.
So we have strong leadership, we have a strong core of position players, and obviously we have a strong core of pitching staff, which is the absolute strength of this franchise. The reason I think most people felt that we were thought of as the number one team in baseball last year was simply because our pitching staff. It's absolutely the foundation of who we are as a franchise. And anchoring that staff is Corey Kluber, obviously Carlos Carrasco, Danny Salazar, Trevor Bauer. We had Josh Tomlin, who is a Texas tough kid, rebounding from his Tommy John surgery and pitching wonderfully for us. And then we had our farm system produce a young pitcher by the name of Cody Anderson. So we're strong and deep in our pitching, and that is what's going to carry us. Cody Allen, one of the best closers in all of baseball, anchors the bullpen, which in our business, if you don't have a real strong bullpen, you're in trouble, and we feel real good about who we are. Now, what we need to do, right, score some runs. It's pretty simple. That was the one thing. When you're built on pitching, you have to play good defense. Well, we did play much better defense as we go into 2016. We feel real good. Mr. Almonte, who came in late in the year, played center field, played a good center field. Lonnie Chisenhall moves from the infield to the outfield and becomes a terrific right fielder defensively. So we need to figure out how are we going to score some more runs. Obviously, it's pretty simple. We need to be a team that takes advantage offensively of situations. We have to do a much better job than we did a year ago with runners in scoring position, being a much better clutch hitting team. We were that the previous 2 years, and then last year we just struggled with that. We didn't even hit with the bases loaded the way you should as a baseball team to score some runs. So we just need to find a consistent offense. Chris Antonetti, who is our president of baseball operations, and Mike Chernoff, our new GM, that's their number one focus, is how do we get to that 2 more wins a year. And how do we do that? By changing the face of the roster a little bit and getting that offense on a more consistent basis. And I think what the team, we're going to make some moves. The winter meetings begin in a week, next week, and that's where all the GMs get together and talk trade and those sorts of things. So how we go about building our baseball team is, we look internally first to see what's coming. With the Francisco Lindors and the Giovanni Urshela's and the Cody Andersons, and what can the farm system bring us to help, and then how do you look at the free agent market and then the trade market to make sure that you, look under every rock possible to find that one hitter that you can throw in the middle of your lineup. One of the things people always ask me is, how come we can't find that 30-homer, 100 RBI guy? Let's go get that power hitter to hit in the middle of the lineup. Last year, I think there were only 12 men in all of baseball who hit 30 homers, both American and National League. They aren't out there. And if they are, they're signed to long-term contracts, the Mike Trouts, the Goldschmidts in Arizona, Miguel Cabrera in Detroit makes $28 million a year for the next 8 years. I mean, those guys are signed, sealed, and delivered. So a much more consistent lineup up and down is what you need, and that's the one obvious goal for us. But what has us most confident about who we are as a baseball team. I don't know if you heard about this story at the end of last year, but I had never seen this in my going on 38 years in this business, which I thought was just incredibly cool. When we made a lot of trades at the trading deadline, we got rid of a lot of our veteran players. We just felt the season wasn't going the way we had anticipated, so it was time to churn over the roster, let our younger guys have an opportunity to play. So you have to clear out some veterans and allow those positions to be opened up to let kids, produce and get the opportunity to get their feet wet in the big leagues. And as we did that, Terry Francona, which is why I think And again, 38 years, I've dealt with, I think, 15 managers in my career, and Terry is at the very top of how he communicates with his players and how they love playing for him. He called in 5 guys. He called in Mr. Kluber, Mr. Kipnis, Mr. Brantley, Mr. Gomes, Cody Allen, that they were the leaders of this baseball team, the new leaders, now that some of the veterans were traded. And they sat and talked about what kind of identity did they want, what kind of team were they going to be, and that Terry put the burden, the pressure on those gentlemen, said, this is your team now. You have to determine what your identity is. You have to determine who you are as a baseball team, what you want to do going forward. And Michael Brantley was the one who came up with, well, let's create a contract that is only for the players inside this clubhouse. It's a contract that deals with how do you approach your job on and off the field as a professional. How are you accountable for your actions every day? Not just the 3 hours that you're on the field playing, but accountable for your actions in the strength and conditioning room, in the batting cages, out on the field in batting practice. Do you have the respect and the professionalism that is needed to perform at a high level each and every night when you play 162 baseball games in 180 days? It's an incredible taxing profession, Major League Baseball is. Michael Brantley was the one who came up with the contract. So they sat and they wrote out a contract that every player in that clubhouse had to sign about how being accountable and what it means to be a Cleveland Indian. I had never seen that before, and I thought it was incredibly cool that a young man wanted to take it to that step, that everybody had to buy into accountability, and that's a little bit rare as we see in our Cleveland sports scene these days. This will be an incredibly fun team to watch this year, incredibly talented team. Again, we hope we don't get on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We want to go under the radar a little bit, but with our strong pitching, Corey Kluber, what a weird year he had. Statistically, he was as good as he was a year ago when he won, 2 years ago when he won the Cy Young Award. He just didn't get any run support. He actually had the fewest run support of any pitcher in all of baseball. And it's just bad luck, bad timing when he was out there on the mound. Bob Feller used to talk about it isn't how you pitch, it's when you pitch. And you like it when the team scores 6 runs for you and you go out there and do your thing, you can get a lot of wins. So we need to get our offense cranked a little bit to help him out. But anchored by Corey, we feel really good about who we are as a baseball team, a deep, solid starting rotation. As those of you who follow the game of baseball, yesterday the Boston Red Sox paid $31 million a year for the next 7 years, $271 million for a pitcher. Now, people look at Mr. Dolan and say, how come you're not out spending a lot of money? I think you would want to celebrate the fact that we're sharper than that we don't have to spend $31 million a year to put one of the best pitching staffs in baseball together. It's all about timing and how kids are going. Francisco Lindor is one of the best young players in baseball. It's just the part of the timing right now in baseball that he'll make $500,000 going into next year. That'll certainly change as that kid keeps going. But we feel good about who we are as a baseball team, and I think if we just stay off the cover of Sports Illustrated, people are going to really enjoy who we are and what we're all about on the field. Off the field, real quickly before we entertain some questions, is Phase 2 of our renovations. We were chatting a little bit earlier at the table. Phase 1 of our renovations, the new kids clubhouse area, the right field corner district, was met with incredible expectation. And normally, reality does not exceed expectation, but this did. What we did in that right field area, the whole social gathering aspect of watching a baseball game, how people watch a baseball game has changed over the years, obviously. We call it the third inning stroll, first and foremost. After about an hour, everybody gets a little antsy. We need to get up and move around. Our legs get a little stiff. Younger people just can't sit for an hour, which is why we created this state-of-the-art kids area up in the mezzanine area. And then we created the social gathering spot for the millennials out in the right field area and incorporated all of the local restaurants that we could in a new food and beverage presentation. And it, again, was met with wonderful appeal and positivity. And so phase two is we just want to enhance and just continue that theme behind home plate and all the way up from third baseline to left field. And so you'll be able to walk around home plate area now and look straight through into the field. So you can almost do a whole 360 and not miss a pitch live in the ballpark, which again is part of that third inning stroll, that you need to just walk around the ballpark a little bit and you won't miss a pitch. You won't have to look on a video board to keep following the action. We're going to add a number of more local restaurants to our food and beverage presentation to bring the community inside the ballpark. Again, people raved about that whole process out in the right field district. So we're very excited about phase two. We are the ones who, we're 22 years old, believe it or not, that building, going on our 23rd season already. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we take care of the fans of the next 20 years. And we think we're doing a pretty good job of that, or at least we hear from our fans that they're loving all the changes at the ballpark. So renovated ballpark, a ball club that is going to treat you well. It's going to make you keep attentive. We have to get off to a decent start. Last year we were 7-14 in April, and we just couldn't dig out of that hole. We ended up doing that to get to playing 8 over 500 from May 1st on. Just wasn't good enough. We needed another month the way we were playing to be able to get to baseball in October. But we feel good about, again, who we are as a baseball team, and hopefully be playing baseball in October. We're hard at work. There's only 124 days till opening day, and we're hard at work fixing the ball club, fixing the ballpark for you. And one question I know that's burning in all of your hearts is, well, how can you help the Cleveland Indians? I know that's first and foremost on your minds. And as you can see, one of the slides showed the 6-packs that are available. We have a holiday 6-pack, starts as low as $84. What a perfect holiday present for somebody, a great stocking stuffer. You have somebody in your family that's a huge Tribe fan. You can get them at all different seating locations throughout the ballpark. They're even broken down if you want just weekend games, Saturday fireworks nights, Friday promotional days. Check it out. Call our fan services group or go to Indians.com and check out our Tribe Holiday 6-packs. We also have 20-game plans, 40-game plans, full season tickets. That's the one way to get the best seats in the house at the lowest prices. So that's how you can help the Tribe. So there you go. You can see the Friday, Saturday, Sunday 6-pack there. And that's the way that you can help out the Tribe, is we need to get more people to the ballpark. This is a team that deserves support. We'll treat you right. We'll make it a very fun experience for you. And we cannot wait to do so. 124 days from today, when we open up on Monday, April 4, against the Boston Red Sox. And since they just invested $271 million in David Price, I would imagine that's who's facing us on opening day on Monday, April 4. So with that, I would love to open it up to any questions that you may have. Yes, sir, in the back.
Morning, Bob, and thank you for your presentation. Quick question for you in regard to the season and the playoffs and not all that fun stuff.
Yep.
This one-game playoff that they play before they go to a 5-game playoff
right.
is kind of silly, but it's already cold and it's going to only get colder. Is there any way that, and you may not want to hear this for attendance reasons, but is there any way they can shorten the season just a tad bit? Maybe go from 162 down to 155, whatever, and then maybe make it a little bit longer playoff system?
Well,
your opinion would be welcome.
Yeah, that question relative to the length of the season and then the one-game playoff, obviously the two thoughts on that. First and foremost, I guess from an exposure standpoint, an attention-grabbing standpoint, the one-game playoff, the TV ratings for that were through the roof, and they have been since it was instituted. Major League Baseball starts its postseason with a Game 7 in each league, and that's pretty darn exciting, that it's one and done. So you have one game. Now, and most people in baseball will tell you they hate playing in that game. We didn't, when we played Tampa 2 years ago in the one-game playoff, if it would have been a normal year, we would have had enough wins and we would have been in the division series and we wouldn't have had to play that one-game play-in. So from a baseball perspective, there's a lot of managers and coaches that just don't like having to spend 162 games and you play one game in October and you might be done. Ask the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's happened to them. And Neil Huntington, a former front office gentleman in the Indians, a close friend of mine's, their GM, has done a phenomenal job putting the Pirates together, and they've ended up getting bounced in the one-game playoff. So there has been talk, okay, how do we go about doing it? 154 games, that's been discussed. Do you go to this wild card and play the best 2 out of 3 with a 162-game schedule and do it this way? The wild card game, the team with the worst record does not get a home game in the best 2 out of 3. There's no travel days. You stay in the one ballpark. You play a doubleheader the first game, the first day. If one team wins 2, series over, you move on. That's been discussed. Now baseball guys are saying, I'm going to eat up all my pitching in the postseason in the first day of the well, that's what happens when you don't win your division. You're lucky enough to get in the postseason, but you're not going to get a cakewalk into the postseason. That's why you have to win your division is paramount in our sport. And so a lot has been discussed. All I can tell you is I was riveted by the television action of this year's wild card playoff games. Some intriguing matchups, great games, and so I think from that point of view, baseball's achieved what it wanted to start the postseason with this Game 7 attitude that really gets you going, and then you settle in to what baseball's all about, and that's series. And so, but it's a constant, the competition committee of Major League Baseball are constantly discussing how all that's working. And you have players and managers all on different sides. Yes, sir.
How you doing today?
Good, thank you.
As a middle market franchise, I understand as a fan that it's difficult to commit the financial resources to one player, like you referenced the Red Sox numerous times today.
Right.
It'd be frustrating, right, when they could just dole out all that money and the Dolans can't do that. I guess my question is, I felt that the Indians lacked a little offensive power as the season wore on, and I know that it's difficult to buy that. Can you address it in the farm system? There seemed to be a time where you had homegrown players like a Manny Ramirez. Is there any right-handed offensive power hitters in the farm system? And can you comment on the farm system in general? Because I think that's where the Indians probably should look to grow superstars.
Right. Well, we have to. There's no question. How you go about building a winning championship team, even the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox have to do it through player development. You can't just buy a whole team. And when you do that, it's incredibly ineffective and inefficient. One of the things that I think has made this team work is that contract I just talked about. A lot of our guys rode buses together in the minor leagues, and when you build that chemistry and that camaraderie, there's something special about getting to the big leagues as a group of guys and performing and doing well, which I think was one of the very special natures of the 90s teams that was built. You know, Jimmy Thome and Manny Ramirez and a lot of those guys came through the system. And right now, our farm system, we do have a number of outfielders. Clint Frazier, Bradley Zimmer, Bobby Bradley, or just a few, Tyler Naquin. Those are some names to remember. Whether or not they're going to be able to break the lineup in 2016 will be interesting to see. Clint Frazier is a high school kid drafted out of Georgia just a couple years ago. Probably our second best prospect. Bradley Zimmer is, for those of you who might be old Tribe fans, the build of Von Hayes. If you remember Von Hayes, who was about 6'4", 6'5", tall, skinny, all arms and legs, but could run and throw and hit. And we ended up trading Von Hayes to Philadelphia for Julio Franco back in the day, back in the 80s. But Bradley Zimmer is a college kid who can come quicker. He is a #1 draft pick. So we've got some players coming. Whether or not they're going to be ready April of 2016 or July of 2016 or April of 2017 remains to be seen. It's their job to, make it, open the eyes of our skipper and our baseball people to make this baseball team. But you're absolutely right. The one way that we can compete and put a championship caliber team on the field is through player development and scouting. We provide our players. There is no team in baseball that spends more money than the Cleveland Indians when it comes to scouting, player development, strength and conditioning, the number of coaches at the minor leagues, all the things that you need to provide our players every possible resource to be the best they can be. We spend as much money as any team in baseball in that area. Where we can't compete is a $31 million a year contract. That doesn't mean we can't win. We can certainly win the way we're going at it, making shrewd trades. But you saw the third baseman and the shortstop, Giovanni Urshela and Francisco Lindor, two of our prospects who have come up and done the job. One thing I'd like to add about Francisco Lindor is what a leader he is. Giovanni Urshela, those of you, again, who watched this, saw this kid play third base. Terrific. Gold Glove caliber third baseman. Whether he's going to hit in the big leagues we don't know. And that's true with a lot of young athletes. You just never know if they're going to be able to be a consistent offensive performer against big league pitching. So you have to give them the opportunity to get it done. One of the reasons Giovanni struggled a little bit because he had some knee injuries, he had a back injury, and part of that is because he doesn't have that real work ethic that you're looking for. Not that he doesn't work out, not that he doesn't work hard, it's just he doesn't do it at the same level, let's say, as a Francisco Lindor. At the end of the year, Francisco Lindor went up to his buddy Giovanni, who they've played shortstop, third base together for 3 years in the minor leagues. Rookie ball, Class A, Double A, Triple A, so they know each other. And Lindor went up to him. Giovanni's a kid from Venezuela. And Giovanni went up to him and said, "What are you doing in the off season?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to go home and enjoy myself and work out and maybe play a little winter league ball. I'm not sure yet." And Francisco looked at him. He goes, "No, you're not." He said, "What do you mean I'm not?" He goes, "You're going to come live with me in Tampa, Florida, and you're going to work out with me every day." He goes, "We've got a chance to take over that left side of the infield. It's ours. Here's our chance. And you're going to work out with me every day. You're going to go through what I do to get ready for spring training." That's a special kid. At 22 years old, that does not happen. One other story on that kid. 2 years ago, I was amazed standing in the locker room at spring training. Tyler Naquin, who I mentioned, was a #1 draft pick out of college, center fielder, pretty good athlete, has a chance to be a big leaguer. we have reporting day. So all the guys are coming into camp, position player-wise. Most everybody's there already. Very few show up on reporting day. Most guys are there 2 weeks ahead of time, a week ahead of time, 5 days ahead of time. Well, Tyler Naquin comes in on reporting day for his first big league spring training camp. Puts his bag down, it's in the locker next to Francisco Lindor. And they hug and they say hello, and again, I'm just standing there. And Frankie looks at him and he goes, "Where you been?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, where you been?" And Tyler looks at him and goes, "Well, today's reporting day, right? I'm not late today. Isn't today the day we're supposed to be here?" And Frankie looked and he pointed to the other end of the locker room where Swisher and Kipnis and Brantley. He goes, "Yeah, today's reporting day for those guys down there. For guys like you and me, it was 5 days ago. You're late." Doesn't happen in our business. And that he was 20 years old at that time talking to another #1 draft pick. That's leadership. We are very fortunate. This kid is going to be incredibly special. Again, just the way he changed, adding that little piece to Brantley and Kipnis and Gomes and the guys we had was a major change. But again, player development is the key. We'll see which kids can come up. Cody Anderson came up through the farm system this year, was a big bolster to our pitching staff. Our farm system is highly regarded. We had a lull there for a little while, honestly. Now it is producing some outstanding talent. So we feel good about where we are in that regard. One last one. Are we done? Or all done? My 3 minutes are up. Thank you very much, everybody.